Good morning, Cincinnati, and welcome into another winning episode of the Bearcat Brunch, brought to you as always by Royal Links Golf Tours. Have you always wanted to play golf at St. Andrews? Have you ever enjoyed that perfect pint of Guinness in Ireland? Well, now you can with the help of Royal Links Golf Tours, a golf tour specialist offering unforgettable golf experiences to Scotland, England, Ireland, and Wales. Their custom itineraries are more than golf trips. They are immersive, cultural, and country experiences that will surprise and delight you both on and off the course. Royal Links Golf Tours is owned by former Bearcat quarterback Hayden Moore and his partner, UC alum Jeff Bartholomew. So if you'd like to play that amazing round at St. Andrews or get that perfect pint of Guinness, visit their website at royallinksgolftours.com or call them directly at 770-331-1525. And with that, we are back on another warm, bright Sunday morning. Not sure if we're going to pay for this at some point.
We will.
We got to wear shorts and a t-shirt to the game yesterday. Was outstanding. And the Bearcats, in what is come to be expected against a Navy team, slogged their way to a 20-10 victory, improving the record to 7-2, keeping themselves in the hunt for a third straight AAC championship. Joined as always by my partner Jeff Howell, and as we do every week, I will kick it off to you and just give your big first impression of the Bearcats win.
I mean, look, this is a team that last year went to the college football playoff and they beat Navy by 7 points. They won by 10 points this year. It was very, I don't know, an uninteresting, uninspiring kind of win, but they got through it. I mean, Ben Bryant looked good for the most part, I think. Defense kind of was still, I mean, they were there, but not as, you didn't have as many tackles for loss and sacks as you'd like to see maybe, but they won the game, and we don't ever have to play a triple option team again, so I'm good with that.
Yes, I mean, Navy just, no matter how good or bad, I think you have to just be absolutely firing on all cylinders, and they have to play bad to get a blowout against them. It's just not in the cards with the way that they play and the things that they do. And there were no turnovers for either team, so it's not you didn't get a short field or anything like that. I mean, UC had 8 possessions. They scored on half of them, but it's just the way that it goes playing Navy. And I think offensively and defensively, they did, quite a bit of good things. It's just a pain in the butt to play them. I'm glad that the game took just under 3 hours. That was very, very nice. And as you said, I'm glad we don't have to play them probably ever again.
It's just, I don't know. I was surprised that the time of possession ended up being pretty even as far as going against a team. I feel like when we play them, usually we have our 4 possessions total in the game, it feels like, and
right,
and they also have 4 possessions, but they just hold on to the ball for so long.
Right.
But it was pretty, I mean, they had it for 33 minutes, we had it for almost 27 minutes. The first half, I think each team had 3 real possessions, or maybe UC had 4, and then they had 3 real possessions because that last one they kneeled it out.
Right.
This is kind of a question that popped into my head while I was watching the game, and I was like, I'm going to ask Dave about this tomorrow. Did you feel like when you were there that final possession of the first half just seemed off?
Yes, I mean, I tweeted it was Marvin Lewis-esque.
It was
it felt like they couldn't decide whether they wanted to attack or kind of be conservative and see what happened. I mean, I have it in my notes to get to, and so since you brought it up, I literally don't know what they were doing because like I totally understood the Navy possession prior not using your timeouts. Because they were already down there, they were in field goal range. So they kick a field goal with I think it was like 1:55 left, and you have 3 timeouts. So you run it a couple times for positive yardage, and then you're in 3rd and 4 at your own 44-yard line, still with 3 timeouts left, and they let the clock run. That was the confusing part to me. I'm thinking, okay, you ran the ball for 6 yards to set up 3rd and 4, so the clock is running. I think with around a minute left, maybe a little bit under a minute. So call a timeout there. Run your 3rd and 4 play. If you get it, great. If you don't, you punt it, obviously, because even giving them the ball back with, say, 45 seconds or something, they're a triple option team. You punt it down, you're on your own 44. They're not probably going to get very good field position. So it's not like they're going to be a super threat to go down real quick and score. So then you run the clock down and you throw the pass to Chuck that doesn't get the first down. Then they call a timeout. I just like the whole first, like the play calling in the first half, especially in the way Ben was playing. That's why I didn't get it. Like you were getting those easy, the things that we talked about last week, how nothing for this offense comes easy.
Mm-hmm.
And that where are the freebies and the gimmies? Like they got plenty of those in the first half. Like I thoroughly thought the first half, and for the most part, the whole game, like the game plan, the play doesn't like it was good. They didn't hit explosive plays and still had like pretty positive offensive numbers from that standpoint. So, I just didn't get it. Like, and Bearcat 12 says it tells me they don't trust the offense. I totally disagree. Like they hit those easy plays all game long. Like they couldn't have done that again on that 3rd and 4. But I just didn't understand letting the clock run down when you're at the 44-yard line. So with all those timeouts, so you call a timeout, you get the first down. Say you even just get it by a yard. 3rd and 4 to 44, you're at midfield with still with 2 timeouts left. The clock stops because you got the first down.
First down.
And the way Ryan Coe's been kicking, like you really only need it. And I think it was that going that direction was going into the wind, but the wind was not nearly as much of a factor in the stadium as it was in the tailgate lots pregame.
Really?
Yeah, it was up until about game time. There was some serious wind going on.
I concur 100%. Totally agree.
Once the game started, I mean, it was still windy at times, and there would be small gusts at times, but it was not anything that we had been worried about or talked about previously. So, you get down into you get to their 35, their 35, their 30. You're at least giving him a realistic shot at a field goal. And I just thought that for some reason, like they ran the ball on that drive and was successful, and then got to kind of that like middle area of the field where then it was like they weren't sure what to do. That was my only beef, was kind of letting the clock run down when you had the timeouts and not being aggressive. And you don't have to be aggressive like throwing the ball shots 30 yards downfield aggressive, but I just didn't get it. They let a good 15 to 20 seconds run off the clock before they ran that 3rd down play that they end up not converting. It was a little perplexing given that you were up, what was it, 13-3?
Yes.
And, you could have, theoretically even 3 points, 16-3. I don't know. It was odd, but I'm not going to, it is what it is. There's going to be moments like that in a season where, you just, whatever, it happens.
It was perplexing. I'm like looking around. My son was sitting there watching. He's like, what are they like? Are they just letting the time? Like, what's going on? And I was like, I don't know. It seems like they don't know what they're doing right now. And I don't know if there was some conflicting thought processes going on between some maybe Luke and
Right.
Gina. I don't know. Whatever,
No.
it happened. Time wise, there was a minute 50 left when they snapped it on 2nd and 10, and then when they finally called a timeout before the third down play, there was 32 seconds. So
Right.
between running for 6 yards and then trying to figure out whatever they were going to do, they ran a minute and a half off the clock. So.
Right. So it was weird, but again, you only get 8 offensive drives. Your scoring drives are 46, 60, 87, and 98. The 98-yard drive was actually the fastest drive of the game. But it's kind of what we had talked about, having these gaps in between touchdown drives and 3 and outs, and they did much better with that. They only had one true 3 and out, and that was on the last drive of the game where they're basically kneeling it. So I went back and looked, and you can look up available yards. So like every drive that you have from the starting point to a touchdown, like how many yards do you gain overall for the entire game? And I thought it was interesting that in the Navy game, they gained 68% of their available yards, which was the highest mark of any game in conference this year. And like against Tulsa, they gained 41%, against UCF 52, and against SMU 54. USF 66. So right there with Navy. Against two of the more suspect defenses, more suspect pass defenses, especially. But I don't think it's a coincidence that they worked the shorter, more intermediate stuff in this game, and maybe part of that is because of what Navy does defensively. They pressure a ton. They make it very hard for you to run because they just always have a bunch of guys up at the line of scrimmage. So even if they're not blitzing or pressuring, you're going to check out of a run when there's 7, 8 guys up there. And I thought the offensive line did a pretty good job with their games and with their pressures. They did have that one drive, I think it was in the fourth quarter, where they gave up 2 sacks, had the 2 delay of games. But other than that, Ben had a pretty clean pocket most of the game against a team that likes to try to confuse you, likes to pressure, likes to blitz. And I thought he played really well. 25-35, back up into the 70% after a pretty good dip the last few games. 299, 2 touchdowns. Like I said, 2 sacks, had the fumble that they recovered. Having Tyler Scott back at full strength
he was very clearly back at full strength.
Does wonders for your passing game. I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah. I mean, what he had, and he still he continues his streak of all of his touchdowns being 20 plus yards. So I think he's got 13 on his career, and they're all over 20 yards. One of them was the big one on 4th and 1. It was a 4th and 1 little pass to the outside where he took it to the house. He ended up with 10 catches, 139 yards, 2 touchdowns. I'd say that's back. Jaden Thompson, 3 receptions for 81 yards. Trey Tucker, 5 for 24. Wiley and Taylor combined together for 3 catches. That's nice to see those guys getting it back in. There were still some drops that.
Oh, they had 4 drops in the first half on
very, very catchable passes.
Exactly. Some of them were harder than others, like the Will Pauling one on the sideline. Hard catch to get that in and get your foot in and all that. Like Jaden Thompson, I know the one on the near sideline, he kind of had to turn his body back to the inside a little bit, but you also you got to help your quarterback out too. Those were not outrageous, misses. Throws where they're making diving attempts to get one hand. They should have been catches. And I think Ben missed a throw on that actual play to Jaden Thompson. I didn't go back and rewatch it, but on the replay, it looked like he had a touchdown over the top down the middle. Now I couldn't tell, had he already thrown it when the guy was breaking open? Was there pressure? Those type of things. And I think he missed one on a throw that was incomplete to Tyler Scott, where he had Chuck out of the backfield, either in the second or fourth quarter. But 10 incompletions, four balls that I would say were drops.
Yeah.
And then, you're going to miss on some throws. It's just the nature of the beast. You're not going to go, perfect otherwise. But,
Right.
but yeah, I liked the passing, and maybe that was more so because of the way Navy wants to play defense with being more aggressive. You're not going to have as many developing. I think they pressure and then they drop. So like they want to force you to get the ball out quick, and then they don't let guys run by them because they know that they don't have the size and the speed at corner that UC does, and most of their opponents do. So they're not going to blitz and play man press, because then you're just going to throw it. You're going to take 3 steps, throw it, and have your guy try to run under it. So I thought the offensive game plan was good to combat that. Again, very little from the running game. I mean, from a snap count, I think they only ran it like 14 or 16 true runs, but they still need to get better. It still needs to be more efficient when you do use it. With the win not being what we thought, I thought it was smart to pass the way they did, because Navy is not a good
pass defense.
If you can block them, they're not a good pass defense. So,
right. Yeah, they ended up with McClellan had 11 carries. Ryan Montgomery had 4. Corey Kiner is still on the team. He had 1 carry. So that's 16 true runs for 69, 71 yards.
Yeah, they had
take out the other stuff.
There was a lot of green offensively on game on paper. Obviously, the one purple was run, but basically 6 yards of play. That's average. Success rate was much better than it has been. Yards per dropback was good.
Still atrocious on 3rd down.
Yeah, it's just a struggle. It's what it is. What it is.
Right. I think at this point we know that's what we're getting. Yeah, and here's the thing: it's like, again, and I don't know how much it goes around, at the stadium, but obviously Twitter, he's not a flashy quarterback. He's not
if you really watch that game and you got serious problems with the way Ben played yesterday, then I got nothing for you at this point.
Right.
He played significantly better than he has the last several games, made several really good throws. I don't know what else you want. This game, I'm fine with what you want. You want to see more Evan after the last couple of weeks. I said it myself.
Yeah, we talked about that very, very in depth last week. And look, Ben Bryant is a guy that I made him the first half offensive MVP because I thought when he doesn't show up, it's it's out. There's nothing to fall back on. You're not gonna be able to fix it. And that showed last week. He wasn't stupendous last week, and he didn't do what we needed to do to win. This week, like you said, he's 25 35, 299, 8.5 yards per play, per pass, 2 touchdowns. What else do you want?
Yeah,
they won the game.
They didn't have the drives. If you only really get 8 drives. Now in the second half, they had the 1 touchdown in the 3rd quarter and didn't get things going again in the 4th quarter. But
when you're playing against a team like Navy, though, that you take what you can get, because they play so strange. They play just a different kind of football. It's very irritating. Hold the ball as long as possible. Try not to give your offense time to do anything. Keep it close. Like I said at the top of the show, the team last year only beat Navy by a touchdown. They beat them by 10 points this year.
Yeah, it's just I kind of take the Navy game as just a total one-off.
As an outlier.
And if you just want to win, it's very hard to parse through it and try to take that and what that means and stuff like that, because it's such a one-off outlier type of a game. But I just thought that I thought of the things that I had been talking about and wanting to see, areas that they could attack defenses, get in more of a rhythm. Again, in the first quarter, they moved the ball well, but got bogged down in the red zone, had a drop on, a play first down inside the 10-yard line. But I just thought it was a better plan of attack, a better game plan to get your quarterback more into a rhythm, get your receivers in more advantageous positions to catch the ball, you run after the catch, stuff like that. So again, maybe I don't take a ton from it in the moment of like, what does this mean for ECU? It means very, very little to nothing for ECU.
I mean, hopefully, maybe it's kind of a sign of a little change in philosophy as far as like taking the easy gimmies here and there, and not trying to wait for everything to be these like slow developing down the field kind of plays. I would hope that maybe we move that direction, because I think that this team is a little more successful when they can keep their foot on the gas and keep some of the plays rolling and then hit the downfield plays. Obviously, the running game, we need to see a little bit more there to open that over the top, hit Tyler Scott, because now we know that he's likely all the way back.
Yeah, I just like Jade. I think Jaden Thompson's really starting to round in as whatever you want to call him, second, third receiver, other outside receiver.
Another target.
Yeah, I mean they just, this thing with the available yards, like they just need to be more consistent. It can't be, 3 and out or touchdown. And they did a better job of that. And you just have so many more limited. I mean, eight possessions is like an unbelievably low number. And we'll get into that a little bit with the defense and, what they did and didn't do that contributes to that. But like, I think the biggest takeaway I have is there was more quick game stuff. Now, was that predicated because of what Navy does? And just Ben's completion percentage and just overall gameplay, I felt was better. And again, that might be because there was more easy throws.
Right.
So maybe give him more easy throws, especially early. And because teams are like ECU is definitely going to game plan them to be like, they like to hit explosives. Their passing game is this type of a passing game. So like, get the easy stuff and work from there. But what did you think of how the defense did against the vaunted triple option?
Well, I thought they stuffed it up the middle pretty well. Dante Corleone is he already is, but he is going to be just an unreal player.
He's still PFF's highest graded defensive player in the country.
And it's crazy.
And that's not changing after this week. I mean, he had an awesome game, 11 tackles. He was shedding blocks. There was one play he made the tackle on where the guy tried to cut him and he jumped over him.
He
can't do that eating 8 Cholitos after a game.
No, he said after the game, he told Justin Williams, because Justin was like, how many Cholitos are you going to have to celebrate, your 11 tackles? And he was like, high school Dante would have had 8 or 9. But Brady probably only wants me to have like 2.
I wish he would have said 1 for each tackle.
Right? Like I'm gonna look at the name of the guy tackled, and then I'm gonna eat the Cholito.
But no, like you said, I mean, him and Briggs combined for 20 tackles, and the fullback dive. We talked about that Wednesday night, on the BCJ pod previewing the game. Everything starts with that play, because you need to try to keep them out of 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, and they did a pretty good job. 24 of those by those 2 guys for 72 yards, so 3 yards a play on those. I was expecting a little bit more outside stuff with Xavier Arline, and they tried at the beginning, and I think maybe they got scared, they got spooked a little bit because on that first drive on third down they went with the true option to the outside, and we snuffed it out and stopped it. So they didn't really do that as much as I thought they would. Pace for Pace Jr. Ivan 14 tackles,
Ridiculous.
sack, 2 tackles for loss, and you like with the way that the triple option is like it didn't even seem like he had that big of a game. But you just compile so many tackles when they are inside like that.
And then Eric Phillips, he had a half tackle for loss. Jabari Taylor back with a sack and a tackle for loss. Juwan Briggs, he was credited with a half of a tackle for loss. Just not a lot of things going on in the backfield. They just were stopping at the point of attack and limiting it to a yard.
Right. You're just not gonna get tackles for loss against them because they're just they're cut blocking you, and they're always always coming forward, especially with the fullback.
That game plan is just to keep them there so that they end up in a third and long and like a traditional passing down where they just don't really know how to operate there. I think they threw 6 passes the whole game.
What about ending up with both Briggs and Corleone on top of you at the same time? Because that happened a couple times.
I don't want anything to do with that.
I think they were getting worn out. Like in the second half, like almost every play on their touchdown drive, they had a guy go out. But Xavier Arline, quarterback, he had his 2 best runs on pass plays that ended up being scrambles. He had a 27-yard run and a 32-yard run on.
I think on both of those, it seemed like our guys got pressure so fast into the backfield and they overran it, and then
for sure.
You know what I mean?
He had no interest in throwing the ball, and like as soon as like the pressure was there almost immediately, which then made him just say, "I'm just going to run," which then hurt us because if the pressure's not instantly, maybe he stays back there a little bit, or maybe he throws the ball because he definitely is not a thrower. Their third stringer came in and obviously was much better of a thrower, but he had 48 runs, 48 yards on the other 10 carries. I know they did an okay job. I mean, 176 net yards rushing against a team that averages 240 is pretty darn good. I mean, their longest true running play, yes, those quarterback runs are running plays, but like they were not designed to be running plays. So their longest true running play out of the option was 12 yards.
I'll take that.
So that's pretty good. And I guess this is where, like, when you're watching the game live in the stadium, I was frustrated in our inability to get off the field. But then you go back and you look at it after the fact, and of their 7 true drives, we forced 3 3-and-outs. So, like, that's what you want. But then on the other 4 drives, they have 10 points, and almost all of their time of possession. A 7-minute, 51-second drive is a blocked field goal. 5-minute drive field goal, 8.5-minute drive touchdown, and then their drive at the end, 5-14, and a missed field goal. Again, 6-14 on third down, 2-2 on fourth down. So you're basically that's the problem, is you're basically letting them go 50% on that. And on just some of those drives, couldn't get the stops. We did a good job in the red zone defensively, which had been a problem recently, not allowing them touchdowns. But that's where you could get the ball back to your offense, but they were just able to kind of sustain those drives, and it was more of like a bend, don't break defense.
And I'd rather see that than them giving up those touchdowns down there. So you had that, and then you had the block field goal was pretty impressive because it was a pretty short field goal, which typically you got a kicker that can get the ball elevated pretty quick, and there's no real shot at blocking one of those. And I believe it was Briggs that got in there and put his big paw on it.
Yes, it was a 25-yard field goal.
Yeah, so like typically those start with a trajectory that's pretty difficult to block if you're not
Yes,
there's not some
it's basically an extra point.
right. So if there's not some breakdown on the line, which apparently there was because Juwan Briggs forced his way through and got his hand up. I just defense. I will give them their tough and nasty back for this game because I was really impressed with what they were able to do, stopping things up the middle, like right now. Like there was just no consistency to what Navy was able to do up the middle.
Right. I mean, a lot of times you'll see Navy will just keep doing that dive, keep doing the dive, and then you relax for like 1 second and they do it again and the guy just busted right up the middle for, like 30, 40 yards, something like that. And they did a really good job with that. And, that's what I'm saying. I think I'm like, I'm probably being a little picky when I'm talking about like not getting off the field and then allowing them to sustain drives. But then yet we talk about how important 3 and outs are against them. And they did get almost 3 out of 7s, basically 50, 45% or whatever, 40%. So you did a good job there. So their offense is just, it's going to grind you at times, that they're going to make plays. One of my buddies texts me over my big Tennessee group chat, and he was like, what is it like watching the triple option in person? Do you like it? And I'm like, absolutely not. It's like a slog to middle hell. Like it's so boring, and you I love watching the triple as a fan. Like I think more teams should run it to even out talent discrepancies. But when it's your team, it's miserable.
Yeah.
Like it sucks the excitement out of the atmosphere. Once they get to the 50-yard line, they're basically going to go for it on every fourth down. So you're like, if it's 3rd and 3, that really doesn't matter because if they only gain 1 or 2 yards, they're still going to go for it and they'll probably pick it up by a yard or two. It's just, it has to be tough. And that's what I think, Coach Fickle talked about post game. The guys really felt like they did a good job, staying locked in, not getting frustrated with it. It has to be frustrating when you know what's coming on pretty much every play. And you do a good job and you limit them to 3-4 yards, but that that's fine with them. They're not
just gonna keep doing it over and over again. It's like when you every other game of the year, right? You get a team into say 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, 6, 7, whatever. They're gonna pass, so you can change up your defense. You're going against this, trying to stop the pass, whatever. You go against a Navy and it's 3rd and 7, and they're like, well, that's okay. We're going to try to pick up 3-4 yards here, and then it'll be 4th and 3.
Right.
And
Well,
we're gonna go for it.
Or 4th and 5 play that they hit the long pass on.
Yeah.
I think Jaquan. I think they got to be better, but I totally get you're still not expecting them to throw it there.
No.
It's a one-man route on a, and the guy threw a really nice ball, and whatever, credit to them. But 4th and 5, you're still probably expecting them to run some type of option play.
All year you're let's get off the field. Let's get off the field. You get them into a 4th and whatever, and you're all right, cool. We should be off the field here, and then here they come trotting out their offense again to pick up 3-4 yards at a chunk, and then you're right back starting over on downs at 1st and 10 again. So for them to keep it locked in and not get frustrated and allow that dive to hit them for 3-4 yards and then break one open where they were able to just stop it at those short gains, very impressive.
Yeah. No, I agree. It seemed too, we'll have to, we don't really talk about it, but it seemed like they came out of the game pretty clean. You always are, worried about the toll that, especially on your defense, that a Navy game takes. With the way that, I'm not going to call it dirty, but the chop blocking and everything,
the style of play is just leans itself to the opportunity for unfortunate injuries to occur.
And they're and they're physical, and they know they've got to play a certain way to have a chance, and I totally respect that. I would do the same thing if I was in their shoes. So, but it seems like having a short week for a Friday night game, it seems like from an injury standpoint, they came out about as good as you could hope. I'm sure there'll be some training room stuff as the week goes on, and you're in week 11 now. You're not going to be healthy, but Jabari seemed to be okay.
It was nice to have him back for this style game.
Oh, absolutely, because it allows you to have him, and it allows you to who has experience. That's the thing, is like, yes, they've got guys that can go in and play that position, but it's the experience of playing that offense that you just need the reps against them. I mean, yes, you can rep it in practice, and I'm sure they do a good job, but like, it's just different still, because Will Adams repping their quarterback does this like twice a year, like for a week in camp and then the week of the game. Like, so his movements and decision making is nowhere near to the speed of what Navy is doing it. Like, they know it like the back of their hand, like we would know our offense or whatever. So, it's going to be run at a much different pace and tempo in the play itself. So it's important to have guys out there with the experience that have seen it and know what it feels like, and understand what to expect on certain plays. But yeah, I mean, I thought the defensive line as a whole, I mean, just Briggs, I feel those centers and guards are not big for Navy, and just having to go against those two dudes on pretty much every play could not have been fun.
And then you got Corleone, who is also
I mean, Briggs and Dante, up the middle with the. I know the one fullback got banged up a little bit at one point in the second half. I mean, getting tackled by those guys all the time, and then having linebackers, come flying in at the end, and that's a rough go to be. That's a thankless rough go to be that guy for them.
Right, like Aaron said, like, do you want those two dudes falling on top of you every single play?
No, because I'm only like 5'8", and that would break me in half. But it was good to Ryan Coe, man. I want to give him kudos again. 47-yarder, 27-yarder. He's really seems to have found his rhythm.
And they weren't like kicks that just snuck through, or ones
that
were
like
banging,
wobbly.
He's
banging the hell out of the ball right now.
I mean it, and I know, like, at the beginning, when he first came here, I remember talking to Aaron about it. And so I guess some things that some conversations he had with like Chad, and like seeing the ball sounds different coming off his foot. Like, he hits it real hard, and it seems like he's now got the accuracy part of it put together. And it's nice to know that, hey, if we get into a situation where we need him to make a couple kicks, like, at this point we can probably count on him.
Yeah, for sure. Mason Fletcher, 4 pods, 3 inside the 20, long of 59, 49.8 average. I mean, the dude is just he's nails. He's been that way all year. I mean, you're flipping the field 50 yards.
And he had the one. Yeah, I don't know.
There was one that I bet he would say like it wasn't even a very good kick. There was one where they got the ball, I think started at like their 33 or something. And I was like, oh, that wasn't very good. But then his other kicks were obviously he had the one that would have been. He had the one at the end of the first half that would have been downed on the one, and there was I sent Aaron a message because this is probably the worst ESPNU broadcast I have ever seen.
So you're telling me not to go back and rewatch it?
God, it got worse. Like, we sat down and turned it on, and like a couple minutes into it, my wife looked at me and was like, something's wrong. Like, this doesn't look very like clear. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, like whatever. And then my buddy sent me a message and was like, does it look like this, like camera angle from me, like that it's out of focus? And I was like, it does. Like, everything's
standard definition.
Oh God, it was like, 480p. I mean, it was terrible. And they had fixed a little bit of it, and then it sounded like one of the announcers had his microphone like in his throat, so like it sounded like a high school like broadcast. It was horrible.
Well, glad
So
the positives of being in the stadium, I guess. But yeah, then they had a random some form of 15-yard penalty on Jaheim Thomas. I mean, I didn't see it, so I don't know.
Well, that's what I said. I sent Aaron a message. That's what I was getting at. Was the broadcast was like, oh, there was a penalty, and then they like zoomed in on Jaheim Thomas on the sideline, and it was like, okay, well, what happened? And they never talked about it. Like they never said what happened. And then I sent Aaron a message, and he was like, nobody up here saw anything. Like we don't know what. So I don't know if he was like chirping at somebody or what happened. But
yeah, because that makes it hard for. I mean, with them running the option, I mean, they're going to probably just give it to the fullback or move the quarterback, and it's at the end of the half. But like, it would have been interesting to see if you maybe just could have somehow gotten the safety or something like that,
because it was literally like inside the one.
Oh yeah,
so like they couldn't kneel it. There was no chance. Like you can't kneel that because you'll be giving up a safety.
Yeah, I mean, I will say going back a little bit, the 2 delay game penalties just can't happen in week 9, whatever this was, game 9. Like I don't know if it was. I'm sure it's a combination of several things. To me, it felt like they call the play, and then Navy does whatever they do, and so then they do the check with me on the sideline, and it felt like either that was coming in late, or Ben wasn't processing what Navy was doing fast enough, because it almost felt like he would get the call and then stand there looking at the defense, and I'm like, snap the ball. Like, you've had enough time to get the secondary call to see what they're now in and process, like, okay, this is now where I'm going to go with it. And then he just kind of like froze and like just didn't have it snap. So it's never as simple as this person's fault or whatever, because we don't know. I mean, maybe they were slow signaling in the play. Maybe someone was moving and he has to wait for them to get set, or it's a legal procedure penalty, or maybe he's just not processing the play and then seeing the new defensive look fast enough. But that shit just cannot happen, especially on one drive. Like, it can't happen in this part of the season with a veteran quarterback. With like, everybody the operation needs to just be a lot better. So I'm not going to cast blame on a particular person, because we obviously don't know the reason for those things, but it just seems like something that should not be happening at this point.
But a lot of that kind of seems, I know we talked about it kind of at the beginning, but like a lot of that seems like maybe that was what was going on that final drive of the first half, where it was like, are we going to do this? Are we going for it? Are we not going to be going for it? Like, which play do we need to run here? And they were just kind of like in this no man's land of like standing around looking at each other, and it's like, okay, just kneel it out, just in the half. Like,
yeah, I mean, they would definitely, like, they like to bring their pressures up late and crowd the line and make you, especially if you have a run play, make you check out of that. But it felt like, to me at least, it felt like they showed that in enough time for us to then make our adjustment and get the playoff in time. Just the operation just felt slow. It obviously was, because they took 2 delayed game penalties, so it was slow. But just annoying thing because you can't get in these like longer down and distances against them. You just got to maximize your possessions, and for the most part they did. But just again, some stuff that I think is just all these little things just kind of add up to why we're in this like inconsistency of, especially offensively, just a lot of new pieces. I thought Metz played well as a new piece coming in, but you got a lot of new guys stepping into much larger roles, and even in this part of the season, you're still. Everybody takes different paces to get to where you want them to be. I mean, some guys hit the ground running, some guys it takes a little while. So I think we're still seeing that, and it was nice to be back in Nippert Stadium. I will say that, although I'm gonna need to have a conversation with some people. I had the confetti cannons confiscated at security for the first time. Apparently,
That's unacceptable.
I agree. I mean, they're confetti cannons. Everybody loves them. It's a lot of fun. Everybody in my section was like, "Where are the cannons?" So I had to tell the story about 9 times.
Like they stole them.
But apparently, these new metal detector things that we walk through, the foil on the cannons that keeps the confetti in them sets it off. So we're gonna need to figure, because I said this is bad karma.
You can't.
We've been rolling confetti cannons for 2 years and been pretty darn good.
Did you try to like have a conversation with them about like, listen, I need to get this in?
Are you asking me if I like almost did the "Do you know who I am"?
I mean, maybe
you introduce him to his friend Andrew Jackson.
Yeah, I don't think the 3 people. I was just happy that they weren't like, "You have to leave."
You should have just taken off running into the like, catch me if you can.
I do have an idea though. So
okay,
I do have an idea to circumvent these rules, which I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. That might get me like in more trouble. But I do.
Confetti cannon guys back.
I do. Someone in the section next to us had not silly string, but like some sort of streamers that they set off when they scored one of the touchdowns. So this is. I feel like I'm being singled out. I'm being profiled.
Yep, as the confetti cannon guy.
Yes, but it was nice to be back in Nippert. It'll be nice to be back Friday night. It should be a good atmosphere. All Blacks, I'm sure. Nippert night for the only time this year, probably. But
Natalie wants to know if you can bring in a piñata. Everybody loves a piñata.
We've had piñatas at the tailgate before, but not.
I don't know if it's a good.
I don't know if I can get sneak the piñata in like a baseball bat in my shorts, and I mean, I get 5 of these things into the game every week, just in my shirt sleeves and in my shorts, and then they snuffed them out this time.
I just imagine you walking through, and they're like, "Sir, step over here. Let me pat you down and take off all of your confetti cannons."
It was a scene, but everybody around was laughing and giving them a hard time for taking them away.
We're taking those. All right.
Yes.
I do want to bring up a point quickly on Ben Bryant. Doug Smith was in my brain last night after the game and started tweeting out like lots of things that I was thinking about. But he came up with these stats this morning, and he said at Ben Bryant's current pace, this is where he will rank in Bearcats single season history, assuming he plays 13 games. Passing attempts would be at 433, which is second all time. Completions 274, first all time. Yards 3,406, second all time. 63.3 completion percentage, which would be sixth, and 26 touchdown passes, which would be fifth at his current pace, assuming 13 games. So, as kind of pedestrian as it may seem, week in and week out, he is taking care of business.
I agree. I think the quarterback always gets a large chunk of the blame when things go poorly. But I think he then deserves to get some of the shine when he plays well, and I thought he played well yesterday. I do want to say, Natalie, this is a conversation that will be had. I will be discussing with Mr. Ryan Royer how he can possibly engineer some sort of bypass to this security system. This is the ironic part. On fan council, I have been pushing for better security. Because
that's why they singled you out.
And then now it bites me in my own ass because I can't even get my confetti cannons through. Like, come on, tone the security down, guys. Like, let's go back to the old security where I used to just bring in like 4 beers at a time, through just straight into the game.
They're like, there's the guy. Oh, they've got a picture of you, and they're like, make sure you up the security on
I'm
him.
like
so he
Danny.
thinks
I'm like Danny Ocean in Ocean's 11. They got like they all got pictures of me as I like come into the stadium.
well, they will now.
I gotta try
Now that
maybe I gotta try a new gate. Maybe
now
that's
that you've
it.
been caught with contraband trying to come into the game with it, they're like, no, you have your own gate that you have to come in now, and it's they're gonna have a TSA like X-ray machine
Ugh.
just
Of all
for
the
you.
of all the things that people sneak in, you bust me for my confetti
Cannons.
Oh well. It was a good run.
We tried.
It was a good run. But I think that pretty much wraps up Navy. Like we said earlier, it's a tough game to really shine in the way that it is played. And I'm very glad that we likely don't ever have to play them again.
My mom just sent me a text message and said, "Tell Dave I have some that have paper on the ends. They might work."
Ooh, that's the thing. Maybe I need to check on Amazon. Like, really need to go digging for what kind of are you called to come? Do you do foil or paper?
Right.
Confetti cannons.
This is not gonna work. Oh Lord.
Yes. Send all suggestions to at David and Simone on Twitter.
Steve says, well, if it isn't just the consequences of my own actions.
Yeah, I pretty much did it to myself.
All right.
Oh well, things happen. But anyway, we're gonna totally bypass the Tennessee game. That didn't happen, and we're gonna talk about Alabama losing, right?
Wait a minute. I didn't really get to watch the Georgia Tennessee game. My brother-in-law is a big Tennessee fan due to his wife going there, so he was sending updates on that, and it is what it is.
I'm happy to not see a single second of it.
Yeah, I guess there was a point at the beginning. Stetson Bennett, when he scored his first touchdown, like put the hand phone signal to his head because I guess his phone number got leaked overnight, the night Friday into Saturday.
Oh, really?
And Tennessee fans were like calling his phone like all night, so he had to like turn it off. So when he scored his touchdown, he did that. But other than that, I mean, when you think about it, Tennessee still has probably the best resume of any team in the country. Are they going to be the number one team again? No, at least not this week. And Georgia probably will be, but 8-1 in the SEC. And the most important thing is that Alabama did lose because even though they lost to Tennessee, when you look at the way that the SEC set up, that really didn't really affect like their season or ability to get into the college football playoff, in my opinion, because they could still get to the SEC championship game, potentially win that, and then still go to the CFP and not, and the loss to Tennessee wouldn't have mattered.
No, Alabama. I mean, Tennessee is not gonna beat anybody good when Hendon Hooker, goes 23 for 33 for 195 and an interception. Like that's just not. They're not going to beat anybody. But they with Alabama and Clemson losing, like they still definitely have a shot to make the playoff.
And Ohio State did not look good at all yesterday. Now, granted, it was in like a hurricane wind and a little bit of rain, but Northwestern's run defense is like 111th in the country.
Yeah.
And for the majority of the game, Ohio State couldn't move the ball at all on the ground. And then they only end up winning 21-7. So
yeah, I mean, things are starting to, shape up to the sense of like, LSU, they have 2 SEC games left. I think it's Arkansas and A&M. If they win those, they're in the SEC championship game against Georgia. So you have Georgia, you have LSU, you have Tennessee, Ohio State and Michigan, Texas A&M, or not Texas A&M, TCU, and I guess USC, and then maybe Oregon. So you're kind of starting to, even with 3 weeks left, you're kind of down to like 8 or 9 teams, I would say, that have a truly have a realistic shot at the playoff.
Yeah.
And several of those, obviously Ohio State and Michigan are still going to play each other. LSU and Georgia are more than likely going to play each other. Tennessee, you obviously want to win and go to the conference championship, but you have 3 very, very winnable games next, and you're 11-1 with, a win against a team that now might be going to the SEC championship in LSU. Plus
is Tennessee not able to get? I didn't look.
No, because Georgia, if Georgia wins out, they're in they beat them.
Oh
so
yeah, because they're on. Yeah, okay.
They'll be in the SEC championship game. But you'll have wins over LSU, Alabama. So
their resume is still, like I said, their resume is still the best in the country.
Florida win is decent. The Pitt win is decent.
Joshua thinks we're headed to 2 Big Ten and 2 SEC teams in the CFP.
It's hard for me to see that happening because if whoever loses the Michigan-Ohio State game and doesn't go to the Big Ten championship, they're in the same boat as Tennessee, right? 11-1, not in conference championship. But if you compare resumes of Tennessee, we'll just say Tennessee and say Ohio State beats Michigan. Who is Michigan? What is Michigan's resume compared to Tennessee's?
It's not. You might as well
it's not even.
compare
You can't even. It's not even comparable. So if you're talking about putting a one-loss team that didn't make the conference championship in the playoff, I don't know how you would put. And Ohio State's resume isn't good either. So even if Michigan beat them, they haven't. Their resume is not anything special from a who have you beaten standpoint.
And then you're still potentially going to have an undefeated Big 12 champion.
You could. I think it's going to.
TCU's got to play Texas coming up, and then they got to play Baylor and Iowa State.
Plus the Big 12 championship.
Yeah.
If they go undefeated, I would be surprised. They're playing well at times. They get down in these games and come back. They did it again yesterday against Texas A&M or Texas Tech. I'd be pretty surprised at this point if they went 13-0.
But I think, if they do, you can't not.
For sure,
right?
For sure. And USC's USC's in that boat. They're not out of it by any stretch.
Yeah, they could be a one-loss Pac-12 champion, and as could Oregon.
Right.
So, and this is the year that really cements that playoff expansion. Yeah, you've got a pretty good. Obviously there is a tier of teams at the very top, and it's Georgia, and then below that you've got Tennessee, who's pretty close there. Even though they didn't look it yesterday necessarily, but from their resume, and then you've got this crowded group of 4, 5, 6 teams that you can kind of pick and choose at who's going to go into the
and that's the thing with the playoff that yes, obviously from a UC fan perspective, we want the expanded playoff, and I get the argument of Alabama can lose twice and still make the playoff. Yeah, they probably can, and that's an even trade for being in this part of the season and still having 25 teams that have a chance to make the playoff. And I think it's junk that I won't even use Tennessee as the example. I'll use Oregon. Say Oregon wins the Pac-12, but doesn't make the playoff, and their only loss is the first week of the season to the best team in the country.
Right. Well, I saw a stat yesterday where
deserve to play in a playoff situation that you lost one game all year, the very first week, to the best team in the country, and you're out of playoff consideration. That to me is ludicrous and nuts. And
immediately out of play. You might as well not even play the rest of the season.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where like so like I mean we're seeing it already where like some of these teams who were maybe thought to be like going in the season they're going to be good or have a chance at this and that, and then like some things fall apart early on, and then you've got like this mass exodus of players into the transfer portal like 4 weeks into the season. Whereas if you've got a chance of like, okay, well, we lost this game and this game, but like as long as we win out, we have a chance of being one of the 8 or 12 or whatever they expand it to, like teams to be in the playoff. And you're not going to have, maybe you don't run into that issue of a bunch of teams or a bunch of kids hitting the transfer portal midway through the season. But the other stat, I saw a stat on Twitter about how like Oregon obviously was held to like 3 points against Georgia in the first week. And since then they're averaging like 40 some odd points, 48 points or something a game. And then, Tennessee, the same thing where like they've been, their offense has been explosive and crazy. And then they play Georgia and Georgia holds them to 13 points and like no yards. And...
The Bo Nix experience, dude, 5 touchdowns or more in 3 straight games. Like, I wonder if Auburn could use a quarterback like that.
Maybe.
Did you see the LSU Alabama game? I will ask you this.
I did. Did you watch it?
Of course.
I didn't know if you were like sad.
No. I don't get that way. I'm not paid enough for my sports team. I'm not paid anything really. This site, yes, but like I'm not paid any amount of money that would make me like care so much that it like ruins my day, whatever. But
try to keep it within the 3 to 4 hour.
What did you think of Brian Kelly going for it? Going for the 2? I said it instantly. I was like, you go for 2. I will go on record as saying like, go for 2.
You look like the thing is like, do you really want to give Alabama another chance to like? So you score on one play, right? Like Alabama ends up down there. I thought that pass was tipped. I thought we were going to be talking about Tipgate this morning, and it didn't end up mattering. But like, your defense did what they could. Ends up penalty, whatever. Alabama scores. They kick the field goal. You score on the first play of overtime. Your first overtime possession, right. You score. Then you have to come right back out if you kick the field goal to tie it.
Right.
So why not ride that wave of like we just scored? Like their guys have got to be on their heels a little bit. And then I thought they called up a great play.
Did you hear him say that it's the same play they ran when he was at Notre Dame against Florida State?
I didn't hear that.
Week 1 a few years ago when they called him for offensive pass interference, and he was like, "I knew they weren't going to call it this time."
I did not hear that.
And that's Jason Taylor's kid. That's the tight end. The
Mason kid, Mason Taylor.
Yeah,
is that his name?
Yeah.
He's a true freshman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He makes the catch at the end of regulation that put him ahead, that then forced Alabama to go down and get a field goal, which if you think back to that, they went for 2 and didn't get it. And if they had just kicked the field goal, they could have kicked the field goal to win the game at the end of regulation. Lots of things going on with that.
Saving slipping, man. Time to hang him up.
I think Tennessee broke him whenever when he threw that tantrum on the sideline, Neyland Stadium. I think it broke him. But my oldest son, he's 9. He came downstairs. He's watching the game with me, and so he's like trying to pick some things apart as he's like learning football and his whatever. Played 2 years now, and he's trying to put it all together. And he's like, they should just go for 2 here. Just win the game. And I was like,
sometimes that's simple.
I was like, I like that. Let's see it. And then he's like, they are, Dad. They're going for 2. And I was like, that's kind of Brian Kelly though. Like he's got
coach in the SEC.
Like, right, exactly. Brian Kelly, like for as much as like this fan base here has like ire and like hatred and whatever, like it's there. Even if it's just below the surface,
he's a generally terrible human being, but he's also Unbelievable football coach.
Like, for in that situation to be like, look, here you go. This is the play we're gonna run. Get out there, make it happen. And they still they could have snapped it early and moved it forward a couple, like half the distance to the goal, because Alabama had 13, 14 players on the field. I don't know what that was all like coming out of a timeout.
Oh yeah, then they ran the one guy off late because they still had too many players on.
It was ridiculous. They were so confused. Like, it was pretty obvious whenever that happened, when they came out of the timeout and they were still Alabama still wasn't ready to go, which is totally not an Alabama thing to be undisciplined at that point, where you're coming out of a timeout with 14 guys on the field. And at that point you could tell that whatever LSU was about to do was going to work. And it was a fantastic play call. That kid catches it and then falls backwards into the end zone. You're like, celebrate because Alabama lost. And then actually Brian Kelly was pretty emotional in the post-game interview with
was he?
Yeah, there was tears welling up. He's like, the girl that's interviewing him was like, this is very unlike you. And he was like, yeah, I just, gave the whole coach speak about,
he's grown so close to his new family, and
his family,
8 months that know.
And then I think it was Lil Wayne tweeted out something at the end. It was like, I really hope he uses I really hope he busts out that accent at the podium.
Lil Wayne did.
Yeah, I didn't see any of the post game stuff, but outside of when they rush the field, so they'll get their fine from the SEC, and I'm sure they will happily pay it, as Tennessee did.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. Marcus Freeman, I think he's got it rolling at ND now. That was a different ND crowd than they're used to seeing. I think. I mean, they were fired up. He's got that punt block game going too. Brian Mason. They've been blocking punts left and right, and
they punched Clemson in the mouth, and Clemson had no idea what to do.
No,
they put him on the mat with that punt block, and Clemson never got back up. I mean, it was unbelievable. And the defense, I tweeted it out last night, this is the Marcus Freeman defense I expected to see at Notre Dame. And obviously it's going to take some time to change philosophy, just like it did here. When Luke Fickell got here, and he's changing the whole philosophy and thought process of the program and the way that things are going to go. Marcus Freeman, though he was there, he was only there for a year, and he wasn't the guy. He wasn't in charge of the program as a whole. And when he took over, and it's going to take some time for him to get the things together and get things put in place the way he wants them to go. And their defense was firing on all cylinders, and it was a thing of beauty to watch.
It'll definitely be interesting to see the USC Notre Dame game.
Yeah. I always forget that game's coming up because USC's been dog water for so long that
Oh yeah.
It'll be a good one.
I don't want to steal Aaron's famous segment tonight. I just want to say that I did not see one single play of the Central Florida Memphis game. Not one. Okay. I did not see one play. That said,
that's not the game I thought you were going to bring up.
I'll get to that one. But that said, I am on this podcast right now calling for the firing of Memphis head coach Ryan Silverfield, because in a 21-21 game, in the third quarter, on 4th and 15 from the UCF 39, what do you think he does?
Did he go for it?
He went for it.
That's not even excusable.
Obviously didn't get it. UCF goes right down the field and scores. And from that point on, they basically were up 7, went up 14, went back up 7. If I'm a fan of theirs, they're not having a good season already.
Get him out of there.
You're obviously not attempting a 57-yard in a close game, in a tie game. Why are you not what are you doing? What do you think the chances are that you're going to convert 4th and 15 versus punting and making the team? Do they have a halfway decent punter? I have no idea. Can you get it inside the 15-yard line from there? I know that. Oh, I saw it on my phone as I'm like I'm like, what in the hell are you doing?
Well, and then Memphis. I watched the very end of it because it was like 35-21, and I'm like, nah, whatever. And then it happened to be, I think, like the only thing that was like on at that exact moment. So I was like, no, I'll see the end of it. And Memphis is able to go down and score and make it a 1-score game. Then UCF gets the ball, and they have them at third and 9. Let me look at this real quick. Yep, 3rd and 9, and it was like a little bit of a busted play, and they give up a little 10-yard pass.
I mean, I don't know if John Rice Plumlee gets his job back. Like Mikey Keene's just like a different human being than what we saw last year. I mean, he was balling yesterday too.
So and Memphis legitimately had a chance to go back down and tie the game up, like to stop them and have like a significant amount of time, like 2.5 minutes or so, 3 minutes somewhere in there, where they would have gotten the ball back and had a chance to go down and tie the game, and they give up a 3rd and 9.
I saw a UCF poll today that I voted in just for fun, and it was, if John Rice Plumlee is back, do you want him or Mikey Keene to start? And 89% when I voted was Mikey Keene.
Oh, for sure. They've been out on Plumlee like a good majority of them
since the 70 burger he hung up on.
Out on them for a while. But here I'm going to ask, we'll get to the one game. I think Dana Holgerson is still drinking Red Bull and vodkas as we speak. What's the funnier stat to you? The 140 total points or Tanner Mordecai 9 touchdown passes, 9 incompletions?
The total points. I think it's crazier. Like, you look at that and you look at our fan base, like, throwing a fit left and right because the team this year isn't better than the greatest team to ever play at UC. And then you look at a team that's given up 56 points and 7 touchdown passes in the first half.
The over-under for the game was 65.5. They hit 91 at halftime.
Like that could be us. We could be that. I think Miami has gone something like 18 drives or something without a touchdown. Like,
we did that back when a certain someone was the offensive coordinator. But like, I don't know what the hell happened at Houston, because like Doug Belk is their defensive coordinator, and they had a pretty damn good defense last year, and they didn't replace every single guy, and he was like a hot head coaching candidate. Like, it was a big deal that they kept him last year from taking like a defensive coordinator job at a much, whatever you want to call it, Power 5 school. And their defense has just been atrocious. Obviously, SMU needed their starting quarterback to get hurt, and I'm not going to say weird, but like a bunch of penalties to make a game out of the game at home against UC, where they had 14 points for 3 quarters, and they score 70. Is it 70? Did they score 77? I don't even know what the final ended up being.
77. It was 77 to, I don't know, maybe Aaron's probably gotten his
77-63.
Yeah, 77-63. So really what we didn't know is they actually played one of those super secret basketball scrimmages, and that's what that was.
SMU averaged 74 points a game last year in basketball.
Well, their football team scored 77. Like 21 points in the first quarter, 35 points in the second quarter, and then they scored 1 touchdown in the third quarter and 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter.
I mean, what are your meetings like today with your coaching staff?
I just think you don't have any. I just think
what happened, guys? Like, you gave up 77.
You boxed.
Like, we scored 63 points, and we're never in the game.
Right? Like, I think what you do with this is you put everything in a box and you put it inside of a burn barrel and you set it on fire and you forget about it. Clayton Tune had 527 passing yards.
I did not see that coming. Like, Houston
had 7 touchdowns.
Houston had been playing a lot better And I thought they were going to I thought they might be a problem because of only having one loss and not having to play UCF, and they'd already lost to Tulane. So I was like, man, they've got to. They got to go to East Carolina. But where do you go after you give up 77? Where do you what is your week of practice like? What are you? What?
I think you go to a different topic because you're stepping on all of my toes right now. I have to do this stupid segment for 20 minutes about God knows what else. And you've already covered 2 of the games.
Well, you can talk Temple and USF.
Kill me now.
Temple scored 54. Then, talk about that.
I don't know. I won't throw it out anymore.
All right, we're done. We don't want to ruin Aaron's favorite part of the week.
Right.
So,
trying to get him out of the nightcap.
Maybe you can do a
tonight.
shorter one. So
I don't know. That's awful.
We will transition then. We will save Aaron for his big segment tonight. We will transition to Bearcats in the NFL. The Eagles still 8-0. Jason Kelce,
0 sacks allowed.
What was the stat and how many pass sets or whatever?
Oh, I didn't see that. I don't know. He's Fat Batman. He's walking
Fat Batman, Fat Batman, sexy Batman.
Has not given up a sack in 607 consecutive pass blocking snaps. 607.
That's pretty good.
And he's probably the greatest podcast host of all time, and he's only done it for 3 months. I know, Chad brought that up. He was like, "How is it possible?" The dude's he's incredible. And then you look at Sauce Gardner. Again, the dude is unreal. 90.9 from PFF, the highest coverage grade in single coverage. He still hasn't given up a touchdown.
Here's next gen stats. Sauce Gardner in man coverage as nearest coverage defender. Yards allowed, 13. NFL rank first. Yards per snap allowed, 0.2, first. Yards per target allowed, 0.9, first. Pass defensed, 5, tied for first. Ranks among 46 cornerbacks, minimum 50 such snaps.
Unbelievable.
Kobe Bryant, through 8 games, 4 forced fumbles, most in the NFL, 226 coverage snaps, 257 yards allowed.
33 total tackles.
Just wait until they start playing that real offense.
The NFL plus offenses.
Just wait.
I was going to say that was I tweeted it out the PFF thing on Sauce with all of his ridiculous stuff that you just went over, and I'm like, "Hey, Aaron, are we still waiting for him to play better competition? Is that what's going on, or what? He's unreal, and it's not even like something. Sometimes you get these guys on offense or whatever, and you kind of figure out what they're doing and how to exploit it or whatever. He's the guy that is figuring out how to exploit all of these new these new offenses that he's not seeing. There was a play last week where he blew up he read the screenplay immediately and was already there as soon as the guy got it. And I don't know what else to say about him. Sauce is incredible. Kobe's having a great year. Alec Pierce had 3 receptions for 66 yards, and he's got a new quarterback. Eric Wilson, a name that probably doesn't come up a whole lot, but 4 tackles and a sack. Sauce Gardner had 4 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. Derek Forrest, again, 2 tackles and a forced fumble.
On Forrest, real quick, he is the 4th graded per PFF, 4th graded safety in the league, and has the best cover grade among all safeties.
Okay. So we talked about him at the beginning of the year. He started.
So what you're saying is the defensive backs on last year's team were good.
Well, right, and that's the other thing.
All 3 of them. Brian Cook's been hurt and not not a starter for them, but like Forrest, Sauce,
Kobe.
have been lights out from the day that they started.
Well, Forrest
and
was
it's
2
like,
years ago.
2 years ago,
Yeah.
right? But like, so those guys were good. Is that what we're saying?
Right. And then I know it was against our Bengals, but James Hudson went in motion
Just cleaned a dude out.
and just like, God, that guy. I mean, if he doesn't get thrown out of that game for some silliness.
Sure. Chris Moore, touchdowns in back-to-back weeks for the Texans.
Yeah. We talked about it on PTP, and I know I brought it up here. Like, it makes the NFL so much more enjoyable for me when, even if the Bengals aren't playing, or when the Bengals game's over, waiting on the Bengals game, whatever, to be able to flip through games and be like, all right, let me let's see what Sauce is doing in this game, and watch those games in a different way of like, I don't really care who's winning this game necessarily, but like, let's see what he's doing. Obviously, like, no discredit to Jason Kelsey, because it's just not as necessarily exciting watching a center, but he does obviously a very fantastic job there, not allowing a sack in 607 consecutive pass blocking snaps.
Today, the Bengals are on Fox, so you can watch Carolina Bengals on Fox. On CBS, though, you have Buffalo and New York.
And the Jets.
So you're going to have Sauce on Diggs, probably.
Yeah.
Just saying. You can flip back and forth for your Bengals and your Sauce.
Nice.
I do want to say, I'm sure UCF fans are mad that game day is not going to Tulane and it's going to Austin for TCU and Texas.
In Texas? Oh. Yeah, I guess it is what it is for those guys.
But yeah, I mean, the Bearcat dudes, like, every week they're still,
right. We knew it. It's funny to me to see like all these like national like talking heads and national Twitter accounts and whatnot. Like every week there's like, it seems like there's at least one Bearcat outside of Sauce, because he gets a lot of the press or whatever because of his he's putting cheese heads on his head and doing that kind of thing, and but then his performance on the field. But then you see like it's always like somebody new, like you got like Eric Wilson that gets a little bit of credit here, and Derek Forrest and Alec Pierce, I think, will continue to just be a solid receiver. There was, I guess, the Chiefs were on a bye week, so that's why there was no Travis Kelce.
Right. Yes, because he was at the Eagles game last week, not the Thursday nighter.
Right. And then they were both on, the Kelce brothers were both on
the Manning cast for the Bengals game,
which I didn't catch any of the Manning cast, but that is what it is. So they continue to rep. They continue to rep UC. I mean, they bring it up all the time on their podcast. If people aren't watching the New Heights podcast, they're missing a lot of like hilarity and also good football insight. So
the Falcons can cement their place at the top of the FC South if they would just make a quarterback change.
Yeah, let's get some Desmond Ridder in there.
I know their fans want it, even though they keep winning.
Their fans have been calling for it since before the season started.
So I don't think it's going to happen. If you're first place in your division, you're probably not.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to make a quarterback change. Justify a quarterback change at that point, but
yes, but that concludes the Bearcats in the NFL. I don't have a ton to say about the Bengals except try not to suck today, because if you lose this game going into the bye, it's going to be an ugly 2 weeks.
I have a question for you on the Bengals, Dave, because we talked about it on Tuesday. But were you disappointed in the way that the trade deadline was handled?
I mean, I guess me personally, not really, because I don't ever expect them to do anything at the trade deadline. So, like, when my expectations are one thing and that's what happens, I don't really get. Like, I get both sides of it, but at the same time, like, they have very little money right now that they could have actually used to trade for someone.
Yeah, I think cap space is like 3.3.
Under 3 million, yeah, something like that. So, like, who are you getting that's like for that that you really think is going to like truly make an impact.
Well, you don't expect them to do anything creative with the salary cap. Like,
No, that's the thing is like they don't restructure deals. They don't cut dudes and like take on dead money. So like that to me is like if you want to just get mad for the sake of getting mad, fine, whatever. That I get it. That's what fans do. But like asking them to do something that they never do, and then when they don't do it, getting mad about it, I'm like, well, you knew that's what was going to happen,
right?
So I
was just curious.
I just don't know. I don't know who like at corner, maybe, but like who's giving up good corners,
right?
if the corner's that good, they're not getting traded at the deadline.
Certainly not for anything that the Bengals are willing to give up.
Right, like a 7th round pick and a guy that's making less than $3 million.
Right.
So
there was just a tweet from Mike Petraglia of Drew Chrisman in full uniform working out 3 hours before the game.
Finally.
I don't know. I haven't seen any corresponding move of any sort.
The actives don't come out till 11:30, so we'll see if he's. I mean, like, obviously Huber's been a dude forever. Like, he doesn't have it in his leg anymore. Like, it's pretty obvious that like, unless his average right now, he just doesn't. He's got too many kicks in his leg. He's like an old man at this point. Like.
Just turn him into your punt coach and
turn it over to the younger kid that can boom it a little bit more. I mean, if holding is that big of an issue, then we have like much bigger problems.
Well, I think. Well, I mean, I don't even know, like, because Evan McPherson's looked a little bit off with.
Bad bad game. Yeah, I mean, everything about that game was bad. Like
there was nothing positive. It was so bad. It was so bad.
I mean, you let damn Jacoby Brissett go like 17 for 22 for almost 300 yards. Guys just, and part of that is because they're so banged up at corner, but like, but yeah,
that's another one that you put in a box into a burn barrel.
That whole game was a disaster. So just try not to suck this week and get back, get a win, go to the bye.
And then let the second half of the season play out, and hopefully it's better than what we've seen thus far.
Exactly. So I think that about wraps it up. Big week coming up. ECU's playing well. I think they're on a 3-game win streak.
At least it's here and not like I would be more concerned if it was at ECU because I feel like that place is just like a black hole of sadness. So
well, we seem to figure out ways to win there, but it hasn't been easy. And Holt Nealers is a totally different quarterback, home versus road against the Bearcats. So,
and he's like 65 years old, I think.
Hopefully he can make it to the game. His hip doesn't break on him or something.
I think he was in the same initial draft class as Tom Brady. So
well, he played in the blowout. UC blew them out in 2018. He played at the end of the game.
Crazy.
So that wraps it up for another winning episode of the Bearcat Brunch. Be sure to give Jeff and myself a follow, like, subscribe, leave comments. We read them. We try to, do the best that we can. Get into everybody's questions. We really appreciate it. We obviously always really appreciate our sponsor, Royal Links Golf Tours. And we will be back next Sunday morning with what is hopefully another winning episode. And with Tulane and UCF playing each other, could set some things up for how this season's going to end. So with that, we thank you again for joining us and have a great day.